Hello, my loves. Welcome to part 2 of the Connecting Parents Through Clear Boundaries episode. I left you on a cliffhanger last week. This podcast was taken from a workshop that I just ran recently with the same name, Connecting Parents Through Clear Boundaries. Now, I left you on a cliffhanger, but just to recap what was discussed. Step 1 was learning to say more yeses to your kids, because kids don't listen to boundaries or don't want to respect boundaries, or very defiant of the rules and boundaries that we set, or make us repeat ourselves multiple times because they feel really limited in other ways, because they feel like they have very little control over their life. So one of the very few ways that they exert control is by not listening to us or ignoring us or refusing our wishes, right? So one of the ways that we circumvent this is not by coming down harder on them, but by learning to say more yeses throughout the day so that the important boundaries and rules do stick and they feel more empowered, right? We want to create lots of opportunities for them to feel empowered during the day. So if you want to learn more about that, go back and listen to episode 1. And then I left you on a cliffhanger on episode 2 about how to create more connection with your kids. And in that last episode, I also talked about connection is not created through spending more time, but it's by being more present. And so here you go. Here's the podcast. You can continue listening, where you're going to learn about how do I create more connection with my kids. But before I leave you, just a reminder that this workshop was created in celebration of my brand new program, The Grounded Parent, which you can find more details in the show notes. And if you're listening to this before June 2nd, you still have time to join us. And I look forward to serving you. So presence happens because you're giving your full attention. And it's not just your attention. You're putting aside your judgment and your fear, right? That's created by self-awareness. What fear of mine am I projecting onto my kids, right? And presence is about letting go of the need to fix or change things in that moment, right? So what I mean by that is going back to my example and my story. I was fully present with my son that night when I experienced my own breakthrough with breath work, and I came into that room. In the past, I hadn't been fully present with him. Even though I gave him my full attention, I was coming from a fearful place of like, how do I fix this? Something is wrong, right? I don't know how to get him the help he needs. This is not an acceptable way for a child to behave. This is really scary behavior. What will others think? Right? That's all judgment and fear playing in. You will never be able to stop those kind of thoughts, but self-awareness and self-healing helps you put those in a container and set it aside in that moment. Right. And in that night, I stopped trying to fix his temper tantrum. In previous times, I'd be like, what can I say? What can I do to fix it? So he just stops this behavior. And instead that night, I was fully present and I was with his pain and suffering and holding him, saying, I am here for you, all apart, and I will hold you without judgment. And I will sit here for as long as it takes. There was no rushing him. And the irony of it is, because I took the rushing away, he calmed down faster. Right? And it requires you to slow down. The slowing down actually speeds up everything else in terms of your children getting to a safe place, your children connecting with you. When you choose to slow down, all of those things speed up. Okay, so you're wondering, why do I probably do this, right? But before we get to the how, I want you to understand, why is emotional connection so important? Because our kids, all they are bothered about is these questions right here. Do you see me? Do you feel me? Do you hear me? Do you love me? Do I matter? Right? And everything that they are doing in their life, habits, behaviors, actions, is all the intention behind it is to get some sort of answer to these questions. So how can we fill up this cup on a daily basis? Right? And like I said, you do that by these things. Right? But the reason this is so hard right now is because a lot of us have never been taught how to model this type of parenting. Right? So we have a lot of conditioning that we bring into our parenting. This is how my parents did it. Some of it worked, which I'm going to bring in. Some of it didn't work. So sometimes we tend to do the complete opposite, right? Like we either are like our parents in a lot of aspects and parent just because that's how we grew up. And then there are some parts that we absolutely hated our parents did. And we're like, I am never doing that to my child, right? And we go the other extreme. But what we have never done is take apart everything piece by piece and ask, is this something that I want to keep doing because it's me? Or do I want to let it go? Because I've just kind of adopted it because this is how it's always been, like by default, right? And the other reason presence is so hard, presence requires you to be in your body, be connected to your body, right? It requires you to use all 5 senses. So if we are overachievers, always on the go, 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 and we have been driven in our childhood to never stop, be productive, don't be lazy, keep going, achieve all of these grades, be successful, right? All of those ideas of what success is and, how you need to operate to be a productive member of society physically stops you from learning to be present. Like you don't have the ability right now because you're always in your head and you are literally scared to get into your body, right? You have been conditioned, I know I was, to shut that part of ourselves. So I only operated my entire life through the neck up because everything was through here, filtered through this head, this brain, and nothing truly connected to my heart. I didn't even know what that meant or how to do it. And as I went through my own healing journey of connecting to my inner child and then doing breath work, those 2 things, those 2 tools in my life have been transformational in helping me learn how to be present, be with my emotions, right? If we're going to teach our kids to help them feel safe emotionally, guess what? It starts with you. You cannot teach your kids to do something or feel something that you have never allowed yourself to do or feel. Right? We want our children to feel emotionally connected with us. I really want to know what's going on with you in your life. I want to know what your thoughts are. I want to know what your feelings are, right? That's the level of trust and intimacy we want with our children. But do you give that to yourself? Do you at any point during the day stop and go, what are my needs right now? What are my emotions and feelings right now? What am I feeling? What do I need to give myself so that I can feel better? Can I allow myself to feel my sadness fully? That's a big one. We don't want to feel all the uncomfortable feelings, right? Whether it's sadness or anger, or even if you're upset with somebody, right? We just kind of shut that stuff away and move on. Which is the reason why we want our kids to kind of shut those tough emotions away and move on. We don't have the tools to feel it and release it. So how am I going to teach my child? Right? I won't. I'll just tell them it's nothing. Move on. This is not a big deal. You'll be fine. It's okay. Right? All those really well-meaning things that we say out of love, it actually does not fill this cup because we don't see them. We're not feeling them. We're telling them don't feel. Kid was mean to you. It's okay. It's not a big deal. Just move on, right? I'm not trying to shame you, but I'm just trying to help you bring awareness to why your kids don't respect boundaries because of these deeper stuff that's going on. It's not just about simply following rules, right? Do you feel me means I have had a tough day at school and it's like, I don't know how to communicate that with you. And so we let them be instead of saying, do you want to watch some TV to cheer you up? We sit with them, with their pain. All right. Number 3, We want to learn to be curious and not judgmental. Okay, let me get to my notes so that I make sure that I don't miss anything for you guys. What does this mean, being curious and not judgmental? Okay, so curiosity, again, the time thing always comes up. It's like, I just don't have the time. It's going to take too long to get curious since they're just telling them what to do, right? I don't have the energy. I want to be curious and not judgmental, but in the moment I lose control and say all these harsh things. When no one ever taught me to parent this way, I'm not really sure I know how to be curious. Okay? So I first want you to realize that your child's action is always driven by a deeper need. Our job is to find the deeper need and help address it. And I'm going to tell you in a minute, like, what does it look like? So, like in the previous slide, right? Their needs are like, do you see me? Do you feel me? Do you hear me? Do I matter? Right? And we want to start investigating, like, which one of this is not being met. So if your child is misbehaving, it's probably because something hasn't like been met that day or for a while. So these are the examples I want to share with you. So the left column, for me, it's my left. I think it's for you. It's left for you as well. This is probably what you see on a daily basis, right? Let's just use these examples. Delaying bedtime, right? The deeper need there is probably, could be multitude of reasons, right? But I'm just giving you one for the sake of time and just teaching. I need more time with you. With young kids, when they're delaying bedtime, this is always the need. My 9-year-old still does it, right? I thought by like 3 or 4 would be over. But my 9-year-old still is like, can you sit with me? Right? And I realize now the deeper need is I need more time with you. And the even deeper need of what's driving that is maybe it's you've been just super busy with work and distracted. I haven't had any kind of connection with you the last few days and I'm craving that. Right? Second one, you're not getting ready for an activity. Let's go. We're going to be late. We're always late. Right? The need there might be, I don't feel secure in this class. I don't feel good about myself in this class. And I want to feel secure. Why? Because the instructor is like confusing and he's not a good teacher. Number 3, you're late getting ready for school. The deeper need there is maybe I don't want to feel intimidated. I want to feel safe, right? This was true for us with my son. And this is a true example. The reason he delayed and it was a drama every morning to get to school was because the teacher only let them pee once over like the morning periods. You're bad as a 9-year-old having to go into school every day to deal with a teacher like that. It took us a while to figure this out of why we were having like a kid that was finally like doing really well. And then all of a sudden the brakes just screeched to a halt and he refused to go to school. And this was a kid who enjoyed school so much. And the last one, they just lash out for no reason. And the deeper need there is I want to feel better. Right? I don't want to feel so yucky right now. And what we don't see or what they don't share is my best friend made fun of me today. Right? So as soon as they come home from school, they just, right? So how do I get to the 2 right-hand side columns? How do I get to the deeper need and what I don't see right now? You do that through curiosity, right? And curiosity, again, we're coming back to this theme of learning to slow down. And slowing down, it doesn't mean slowing down time. It means slowing down your breath. It means getting into your body. It means slowing down your thoughts. Right? And it means just being here in the moment, even if that's like 1 or 2 minutes to gather your thoughts. That's what slowing down means. It requires you to not go into fight or flight mode. And what I mean by that is, when our child is refusing to get ready for an activity, and let's say the instructor at that activity has told you multiple times, you cannot be late. right? And your child is always late, right? And now we're starting to feel embarrassed, right? We don't want people to judge us. So the place then that you operate from with your child is now your not your temper, but your volume of your voice is starting to rise, right? You're like telling, come on, just get ready. I've explained this to you. The teacher does not like us being late and you're making it late, right? We are going into fight or flight mode because we are operating from our fear of not wanting to look bad. Maybe there's a part of you that is a people pleaser. You don't want people to be upset with you. And so we're letting that fear drive our behavior and actions and the way we talk to our child. We have to learn to set aside our fears and our need in that moment, right? Because our child needs us in that moment. So instead of wanting to fill our cup of not wanting to be embarrassed, we have to fill the need for our child to feel secure in that moment. And it's about learning to open up and not close off. And what I mean by that, when we judge our children, we close off our heart, we close off our listening, we assume we know what's going on, right? But when we are curious, we start to relax and we open up. Curiosity requires you to ask questions. Curiosity means being in a relaxed state to receive those answers. Right? We investigate things when we feel safe, not when we are feeling threatened or when we are feeling scared. And most of parenting is done from a mostly scared place of my kid's not doing enough, I'm not enough. Right? And again, this all goes back to inner child healing. When your inner child has not, let's say you had needs as a child that were not met. Not let's say, that is a given for everybody. Right? Every human, no matter how great your parents were, no matter how awesome your upbringing was, no matter how many opportunities and resources you might have had or not had, we all have stuff that we carry from our childhood. I call that micro trauma and macro trauma, and it shaped us to who we are today. And my parenting and my relationship with my child has changed because I've taken the time to dive deep into that. Right. So a lot of my outrage at my child's behavior was because I was a people pleaser. I was a rule follower. Right. Visa is such a good girl. Right. And my son was the complete opposite of that. He did not give about what anyone thought of him. And so he doesn't care. Like, he's such a rebel and I was not a rebel. And so everything he does triggers me. The way he wants to have his hair, clothes he wants to wear, the mess he keeps in his room, everything. It can be a battle every day if I let it, right? Because my inner child goes, who the heck do you think you are? I was never allowed to do all that. Why should you? Right? Again, we don't consciously walk around thinking these thoughts, but this is all in our subconscious and our unconscious, and that's what drives our conscious action. Our fear, our emotions are always driving our actions. Our unmet needs are always driving our action. All right. So if you have any questions, drop them in the chat box. But you're probably wondering, okay, so I've listened to these 3 things that you just shared with me on how I can create better boundaries in my family. So what's next? Like I said, there's going to be a 5-day challenge that follows this workshop because I want you to take the information that you have received in this workshop and actually put it into tangible action, right? That's what we all want, hopefully, right? Because information plus action leads to transformation. So for each of these pillars that we have covered today, you will either get 1 or 2 activities. The first one will have 1 activity. The second and third pillar will have 2 activities spread out over the course of 4 days. Right? So all you're doing is 1 activity a day. Carve out time, make time for it. Some of it is internal reflection and healing work because as we've talked about, it's not It's not about changing your kids, right? It's really learning to change ourselves so that our kids will be influenced to change. We cannot change anyone else. We cannot. It is impossible. The best way to influence change is by changing ourselves in every scenario, in every relationship. If you've taken nothing away, take that today with you. All right. So I also want you to know that I have a program. I'll briefly go through this just in like a few minutes. It's called The Grounded Parent. And this program is an 8-week program for moms who are ready to heal their conflict and emotional distance that they feel from their kids so that they can build deep connection, trust, and safety through self-healing and practical strategies. I am so proud of this body of work because I have lived through it and I have used these tools to create the family that we have today. We were not in the place that we were in today 3 years ago. All right. So what can you expect from this program at the end of the 8 weeks? You're going to learn how to heal your emotional wounds so that you won't fly off the handle with your kids. You're going to learn to create really clear boundaries and how to maintain them kindly but firmly, but without guilt. Right? Like you might be somebody that caves in. You're going to learn how not to do that. You're going to feel more emotionally connected to your children, much deeper than you've ever done before. You're going to feel confident and in control as a parent without always worrying that fear that's always in the back. Like, am I doing more damage than good? Right? You're going to learn to build trust and intimacy with your kids, emotional intimacy, so that your children feels so safe coming to you with their good and bad stuff. I think as parents, that's one of our biggest fears is that will they know to come to me when it's the really important stuff, right? We have to build a foundation for that today, and we have to learn how to create that safe space for them. And deal with conflict in a respectful and productive way. It doesn't mean conflict's going to go away. This course is not going to make conflict go away forever because that's not realistic. And conflict's a good thing. What we need to learn is how to deal with conflict in a respectful and productive way so that we are strengthening our relationship even after the conflict instead of fracturing it further. So how do I know this is going to work? Right? It's going to work because there's the missing piece that most parenting books, courses, and experts miss, which is they give you all the strategy, right? Do this, do that, do this technique, say these words and this sentence. But what you struggle with is remembering those things in the heat of the moment. Why is that? It's because the missing piece is that self-healing and the body-based work. The books and the expert techniques and all of that is mind-based work, right? And in the moment, you're not able to recall the parenting technique or the right sentence to say is because your body hijacks you, right? You literally feel anger in your body. You feel triggered. And right now you don't know it because you're not slowing down enough, but your body has a physiological response to being triggered by your children. Your heart rate goes up. You might start sweating a little bit. Your breath might shorten, right? Your chest might clench. All of that is sending signals to your body saying, we're not safe, we're not safe, we're not safe. So that's when you start to go into flight or fight mode with your kids. And then before you know it, the words have come out of the mouth and you didn't even mean it. What we need to do is shake off, unearth, and heal the emotions that are stuck in your body, repeating the same patterns over and over. And we do that through breath work and inner child healing. So your own healing is what will heal and strengthen your relationship with your children because it's your wounding that's causing the rupture. Okay, so what do you get in these 8 weeks? You get 6 video modules teaching you concepts. You get 6 group coaching sessions. You get 6 breathwork sessions that's also live. You get group voice coaching that's called as an app called Boxer. where as a group, you get to ask me any questions, 24/7. Obviously, I have boundaries. I want to answer that, but you can ask me questions 24/7. I may not answer them 24/7. But you get that over the course of 8 weeks. And you get a course called Heal Your Inner Child, which is a 21-day course. And you also get access to a breathwork library. So I won't go into all these numbers, but the total value of the course, if you value it out individually, is at $7,300. But for you, $1,500 today. If you say yes,